Welcome back to Outnumbered. So you see there on the left of your screen, President Trump's 10th cabinet meeting of this administration and the first of 2026. We've been dipping in and out. And Guy, against this backdrop has also been obviously the test vote for the potential government shutdown, the DHS funding, and also Tom Homan's presser this morning. So let's get your thoughts on all of the above.
Yeah, so I think Homan, putting him in Minnesota was the right move. Something had to change, and I think we saw why Homan was the man for the job today in that press conference. I think his messaging and tone was exactly right. He also delivered apparently pretty significant news that the Attorney General, Keith Ellison in Minnesota, has at least budged a little bit on some of these sanctuary policies. To me, that is the key that unlocks the mess, not just in Minneapolis, but in a lot of these places. You don't see this chaos in the streets in places where the locals are cooperating with the federal government. So that is hopefully heartening, trust but verify, but that would be maybe a bit of a concession from Minnesota. The response from the feds would be a pullback in some of the street operations and maybe a drawdown in the personnel. I also want to just quickly mention something that Chad brought up on this test vote and some of the Democratic demands that are being reported about DHS moving forward. I think most Americans do agree with, I certainly do, this idea of body cams. I think that's good for the public. I think it's good for the officers. It's transparency. I don't think that should be terribly controversial. I think that's something that Republicans, if they have to give, should give on that. But masks are a different story because of these almost paramilitary mobs that are stalking and doxing these officers. Unless the Democrats can call off their dogs and put an end to that, there's a reason why these officers are shielding their identities, at least in public. Yeah. And then I think the idea that the federal government would give away power to the states when it comes to federal enforcement on the roving patrols or codes of conduct, I think we can maybe come to a reasonable place, but not to the extent that sanctuary states can start dictating what federal officers can and cannot do while enforcing federal law. That needs to be a red line, I think.
And that beautifully teed me up to the point I was going to make earlier, Shannon. I'm so glad we have our legal eagle on the couch, because the reality is sort of these, frankly, ridiculous things that are on the table, quite frankly, are unconstitutional. So the fact that sort of a city council decreed code somehow begets federal compliance when it's frankly at the risk of our federal agents' safety, and it's all under the auspices of the fact that all of these laws, per Keith Ellison, are designed to protect the public. So when you have a city or a state that refuses to follow these laws, and they are endangering, frankly, their citizens. So there's a lot on the table that I think only bodes into Democrats being able to say something rather than actually do something.
Yeah, if we're talking about the laws on the books, years ago, one of the most contentious cases I covered at the Supreme Court was when Arizona passed SB 1070 down there, and they tried to take some of the purview, saying the feds are not enforcing federal immigration laws, so we're going to do it here. And the Supreme Court said, you cannot do it. This is absolutely federal purview. And even if you as a state are trying to be a backstop, you can't do it. And that works in reverse, too. I mean, the feds are calling the shots on immigration enforcement. If you don't like the laws, if you don't like ICE in these communities, those laws have to be changed at the federal level. Otherwise, states don't have to actively cooperate, but as we've all talked about, they can't impede.
Kaylee, we saw this a little bit in 2020, where there were sort of things put forth that were demands and non-negotiables. But at the end of the day, there were some things that were frankly just not doable whatsoever. Of the things on the table, do you see that the Democrats will indeed concede if, for example, body cam is accepted? Nothing else, obviously, because that's the one thing I think that already dovetails in with federal compliance. What do you think the Democrats will satiate or be satiated by, if anything?
I think that they are looking to deal because they will walk away if they say we got any sort of attachments or conditions to DHS funding. They will say that that's a win, and I think they'll take it and go with it. But one political subtext I want to point out, we're all closely watching the screen. If you ever see us looking away, it's because we're looking at the screen. We're all waiting to hear if Kristi Noem speaks. The president has said, I have faith in Kristi Noem. He has noted that repeatedly when asked in questions. But it is notable Kristi Noem has not been heard from publicly since Saturday when she gave that press conference where she said Alex Preddy had arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage. Now, we saw Caroline Levitt distance the White House from that kind of language, say we want an investigation going on. And just in a few days, the language has quickly evolved. To Tom Homan this morning, what a different tone we heard, where he said, I don't want anyone to die. And he said, in fact, I go to bed every night and I pray my agents are safe, and I pray the citizens are safe, and I pray even those we are going after, criminal illegal immigrants, are safe. That is his prayer, and it was a much different tone. So we're all really interested. Do we hear from Kristi Noem? We know when Pete Hegseth was a little under fire for some of the strikes on Venezuela right off their shores. He went to Pete Hegseth immediately in the cabinet meeting. So we are waiting with bated breath to hear from Kristi Noem.
And it seems like lots on the table that both sides might constitute as a victory, and both sides needing such in the messaging and PR department, too.
Well, by both sides, I'm assuming you mean Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, and that side versus the federal government. Look, one of them has the law on their side, and it would not be the state of Minnesota in this instance. It would be federally everybody that you see on this mission. Tom Homan, though, was recognized by the deporter-in-chief and Barack Obama. There were 5 million people who were here illegally, who were criminal or not criminal, who were booted from this country. Tom Homan was his guy. And so now he's on the ground. He does a lot politically, almost as cover for this administration. He takes all of the responsibility and all of the blame. He wears it all. I did want to get to this real quickly, Emily, and it was the HUD Secretary, Scott Turner, who I know we pulled away for just a moment. This is critical. In the midterm elections, housing will be one of the #1 issues in affordability. That is one of the biggest issues of why the president is on this affordability tour. Opportunity zones, 8,700 of them in this country, started in 2017 under this president of the United States and at the behest and championing of South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. He mentioned him while the remarks from Scott Turner were going on, and then Scott Turner dropped these nuggets. This is huge. More than 1 million people lifted out of poverty in those opportunity zones. That's huge in America. Secretary Turner said this: 300,000 housing units built in those opportunity zones. Those are lives changed possibly for generations. And then 3.4% value of homes within those opportunity zones, urban and rural, in this great country of America. That's huge. That's a deliverable that Republicans can take into the midterms. That was a big point in this meeting.
And Guy, I actually meant Democrats and Republicans. So your final thought on, as those two go to showdown on this, what victory each might claim?
Well, in Congress might look different than in Minnesota, right? In Congress, the Democrats want to say, we were able to split off the DHS funding, keep the government open, and now we're pressing our case on ICE. Minnesota, different story, maybe some good movement today. We hope so.
Indeed. Hey, everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.